That's what we do, man's on the grind, that's what we do. Ain't gonna stop, evolving our game on a daily basis. Stay on the top of the game, experiment in the win. We ain't gonna lose, the grind don't stop. I don't need your boost, I'll see you at the top.
Alright, so it's my pleasure to introduce our third guest on the podcast. We have one of the all-time greats of women's cricket with us, Amy Satterthwaite. We're so grateful for your time today, Amy, especially just as time's getting pretty busy at the moment and just retiring. So we just thought it'd be a perfect time to reflect on your amazing career and celebrate it and have a chat about all things cricket. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Awesome. So I'm going to list off some of your achievements. I know you probably hate that, but it is a pretty impressive list. So you are, I believe, you can tell me if I've got any of these wrong, Canterbury's highest run scorer, 7th woman to go past 10,000 list A runs, 7th highest run scorer in women's history, 7th most capped women's player in the world, 2nd highest run scorer in New Zealand cricket history, double international playing both indoor and outdoor cricket for New Zealand, which I believe Hendo and I were trying to work out. We think about 23 people have only done that. Multiple times winning for Canterbury, both indoor and outdoor, and 256 appearances for the White Ferns. A world record of scoring 4 consecutive hundreds in a row, shared with none other than Kumar Sangakarra. 150 wickets internationally, and also best figures in New Zealand T20 history of 6 for 17. How good?
Good. How random was that?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So we'll just, I mean, it's a pretty impressive list. I don't know if you've reflected on that sort of stuff. I guess people have probably brought it up a bit lately with interviews and stuff, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit. There's a couple of things I probably hadn't heard before, but I guess when you do retire, a lot of the sort of information gets brought up, and it certainly makes you sit back and reflect and think of all the hours that's gone into it, and the performances as well. So it's certainly been a really special journey, and I feel very fortunate to have played for as long as I have and sort of performed, I guess, the way that I have for the most part.
Awesome. So we'll start right back to your upbringing. So a bit of a rural upbringing in Culverden. I talked to your sister, and she said you used to bike 14 kilometres to school every day. Played a lot of sports, golf, squash, basketball, water polo, and obviously cricket. And she said that the first time you picked up your dad's bat, you just seemed to know what to do with it straight away. She said you were the one out of all the kids that actually sat on the bank watching the cricket while everyone else was rolling around and mucking about. And then she said you eventually got a crack, and I think they let you start playing and getting involved. So can you take us back to Culverden and how that's, shaped you as a person and a cricketer?
Yeah, as you said, I grew up in Culverden on a farm, a sheep and beef farm, and it was sort of the hill country. So we're surrounded by dairy farms these days, but back then it was a lot more sheep and beef, and I loved my upbringing. I loved getting out on the farm with Dad and helping him wherever I could, and being on the motorbike. And I think I was trying to drive before I could reach the pedals, kind of thing. Just being involved, and then fell in love with the game of cricket. I think through Dad playing, he was heavily involved up there, and just remember going to every game, and I guess the sort of tradition of each week of going and watching, and then probably going to the pub after and wanting to put those 50-cent pieces in this sort of card machine that used to exist back then, that probably half of the listeners don't know what I mean by that, but you just have some really cool memories from that, and the experiences of that. And somehow, like I say, fell in love with the game. I used to raid Dad's gear bag, even though it was probably 10 times too big for me and way too heavy, but just wanted to be involved, and sort of get told stories of pestering people for throwdowns, which I think one of them was Chris Harris, so sorry Harry, but and letting them sort of throw to you for hours on end until they'd had enough, more than me probably. And so it was just love the upbringing and love that sort of country feel about it, and probably gained a little bit of resilience playing with the boys, I think. Dad will remember better than I can. I think it was Huranui Section 2 or something that sort of started in originally, and yeah, playing alongside the boys. I think I managed to drag a couple of girls to play with me for a bit, but they probably got over it and left pretty quick. But yeah, sort of stuck around, and wasn't till I was played, I think, Canterbury Country under 14s that I first played sort of all female cricket, and then when I played for St Albans. So yeah, managed to stick at it with them and probably hardened up a little bit playing alongside the boys, but yeah, enjoyed it as well.
Nice, cool. And so where'd your dad play? What club was he with?
I think it would have been Huranui. Back then they had Cheviot and Balmoral, and actually it might have been Culverden, because they had clubs everywhere, whereas these days you'd probably get one. So it's amazing to see the way that it's probably changed over that time. He played a bit for played a lot for Canterbury Country as well, and then kids came along, so probably had to pull back a bit.
Yeah. I was brought up out Southridge way, so the country way is the way to go. You know, like, so good being out. As I say, we rode motorbikes, and I reckon we were out for hours. Parents had no idea we were. No,
you're on the bike out in the trees, riding around and doing all sorts, and it's just great.
Yeah. That's great, yeah, that's good. So then, I assume at 13-ish, you must have headed into boarding school?
Yes, yeah, I went to St Margaret's in town, so yeah, shipped off to boarding school and get the shuttle bus home every weekend to go back to the farm. But it was obviously an experience in itself, and sort of that change of going off by yourself at that age and off to school, but enjoyed that side of it as well, and it meant that I got to play club cricket in town and play at St Albans, so that was always a benefit too.
So your high school years was at St Albans, you didn't play St Margaret's, they didn't have a team?
Did play St Margaret's, but I think it was on a Wednesday sort of school cricket, so it's a little bit different system to the boys. We didn't play on the weekend, so if you wanted to play weekend cricket, you played with your club, which for me was St Albans right back at the start.
Yeah, cool. Nice. Cool. And then so a couple of other things. Sarah also mentioned that she said you had was there like a sort of makeshift net out of some gates or something, and used to throw down.
Better memory than I do. Yes, Dad. Dad was pretty good, and we fortunately had a pretty big backyard, living in the country, and he made these big kind of sort of deer gates, probably what you'd call. They'd be taller than me. That's what it was. We had three of them, and managed to make a bit of a makeshift net. Mum probably wasn't too happy that we ripped up her lawn, having throwdowns for hours and all sorts, and probably a few balls through windows and things like that. But it was pretty lucky that he managed to put one of them together for us, and we were able to be out in the backyard for hours. So I also had the classic ball on a string, in the tree, and it used to hit that for a bit until you got bored and you whacked it so hard it got stuck, and then you'd get someone to get it down for you. So
yeah, nice. I think Sarah said she used to like to try and tell her all the new skills you'd learned on these camps, but she never really picked it up.
I probably wanted to bat and she had to bowl only. So sorry for my brother and sister who never got a turn.
Nice. So the way we first met was indoor cricket. So I used to coach the Canterbury women's team. I feel like it was about 10 years ago, maybe. Is that
probably
feel
feels
right?
like a while ago now, doesn't it?
At least, maybe. Yeah. So I know. So indoor cricket, it's probably not played as much from some magicians and New Zealand girls as much these days. How did you find the indoor game, and what did you learn from it, and how did it help you evolve as a cricketer? Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. I remember playing quite a few years ago now, in sort of the club system. I think they were called the Sharks, and who knows what else. And then I stopped for a while, and then somehow got called back into it, and then managed to play quite a few years for Canterbury at that point, and then fortunate enough to play a World Cup for New Zealand. I want to say 2014, but that would be a slight guess. But yeah, I just love the game because it was fast. You're involved in all three facets, and I think there's always that discussion about how good it is or what influence it has on your outdoor game. And I certainly felt like it helped helped my game. I think when I was heavily involved in indoor cricket and training a lot for that, it helped me play a lot later, and inadvertently I ended up probably scoring a lot more runs in the outdoor season as well. So yeah, I certainly think it helped me along the way.
Yeah, I feel like it helps. I mean, playing it late, manipulating the ball, you have to score every ball, right? So it encourages that, which I think some youngsters often feel like they just bat time and lack that intent. So I think that helps. And the fielding's obviously immense.
Yeah, it's good fun to get involved in the fielding, and sort of forces you to throw yourself around, which probably wasn't my go-to, but yeah, kind of evolved your game in that sense.
Yeah. I was reminiscing on this, and I remember, I can't remember if it was when I was assistant with Mark or if it was when I was head coach, but when we first played Amelia, and I think she was 14 or something, and she was obviously a small girl anyway, and we had Leah opening the bowling, and she came out to open the batting, and I was like, I think maybe her dad was the coach probably at the time. But I didn't know that, and I was actually thinking about going over to him and asking him, is he sane? Because Leah's probably going to murder this girl. And then she just smoked around the park and just fielded well and bowled both ways, and I was like, oh my god,
held her own very much.
That was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, you could pretty early tell that she was going to be a pretty special player.
Definitely.
Cool, and yeah, I mean, yeah, so. From there, I just found this out today actually. I believe you were offered the first ever semi-professional contract in New Zealand.
Yeah, I think there was four. You're really going to jog my memory now. 4 of us that got offered. It was a while ago now, obviously. And it was kind of a contract, but a working contract. So it was, the idea was that you worked for New Zealand Cricket, got involved in wherever you lived, to help sort of grow the game, but also meant that you could then balance that with training and hopefully, be able to train more than you were before. So it was a pretty cool initiative to have something new like that came out, but possibly jumping the gun a little bit here, but unfortunately it didn't quite work for me at the time. I was working full-time at a vet clinic, and the balance of the income and that sort of things at the time meant that I unfortunately turned it down, but it wasn't long before they then changed the structure of them and was able to take up a contract with New Zealand Cricket after that. So it was just the way it kind of worked out at that time.
Do you remember roughly when that first actual contract would have been, roughly?
I'm going to say maybe 2013, 14-ish.
Yeah. 10 years.
Yeah, roughly, maybe a little bit later. Yeah.
So that was my next question. So the evolution of sort of how it's now gone, fully, like I think this year is our first year of the WIPL. It was quite interesting watching that auction, while the Women's World Cup was on, which I thought was a bit weird, but
it was chaos.
Yeah, it must have been, and how was it juggling? Like, obviously, when you first started, you had to work full time and then train as much as you could and balance that amateur situation and then playing, and then how it slowly, evolved and now it's become sort of fully fledged professional. How did you navigate that?
Yeah, I think when I first started playing for New Zealand, we'd get maybe $30 a day, or there was something like that, and you got different amounts even if you lived at home versus if you lived away from home. And but to think where it's got to now, it's pretty crazy. And it always sounds really cliche, but if someone early on in my career had said where the game was going to get to, not only from the pay from our point of view, but even the likes of the WBBL and the WPL and the leagues that are happening around the world, I just would have laughed at you probably and thought surely not that quickly. So it's been pretty cool to be involved in an era when that has happened. And like you say, I worked full-time early on in my career, so you're going to the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning and getting that done, and then heading off to work and doing a full day's work, and then probably doing skills after that at night, and having dinner at 9:30 at night, and then trying to get to bed and do it all again on repeat. So yeah, it was pretty hard work, but there's an element of, I guess, if you wanted it, you made sure you got it done and you committed to it and got stuck in. And it did mean that you missed out on a lot of things, and I guess you chose to miss out on those to commit to the career and try and be as best as as good a player as you could. And I missed out on the likes of my leavers ball and things like that right early on from even when I was at school. And it was they were the choices that you made to, like I say, try and be as good a player as you could be. But just stoked to see the way that it's evolved over the last 10 or so years and the opportunities that the players have got moving forward. It's pretty incredible, and excited to see where the game's going to go because of that in a way.
You've played in a few of those overseas leagues. Which ones were they, and how were they?
Yeah, I played in the WBBL. So I actually went over and played for Tasmania in their sort of 50 over competition, I think the season before. So pretty thankful to them for the opportunity initially, and then from that I think got the WBBL opportunity, and that's been one of my highlights of my career in a way, playing in that competition. I think just getting to meet new people, I sort of felt like you could go over with a bit of a clean slate and they didn't necessarily know a heap about you, so you could really express yourself as a cricketer and just have a lot of fun. So I think that was huge in my development as well, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And played in the Kia Super League as well, which was over in England, which has now turned into the 100, which I've managed to play in that last year, which was it's amazing to see how it's evolved, and the double headers with the men and the crowds that come in, which are crazy, and all the support and resource and stuff that goes behind it. It's pretty cool to see. So I feel very lucky to have played in those.
Yeah, nice. So one of the few stories I've got that is kind of a bit of an embarrassment one, because you are very clean, squeaky clean. I tried so many people, but anyway, there was. I believe when you were playing indoor cricket, when you obviously started bowling medium pace.
Yes, off the wrong foot. So
moved on off the wrong foot, yeah. So and then I believe you tripped once and fell on your face and messed yourself up a little bit. Was that what made you change the spin, or was it? Just
I should say yes, but I think it was just that I got old. I didn't want to run in as far, even though I didn't run in that far anyway. I was playing indoor, and look, I have a bit of a unique action as it is at the best of times, a bit off the wrong foot, all sorts going on, long limbs included, doesn't help, and ran in one day, clipped my feet, just face planted, no arms, nothing. And obviously the people that are fielding up front are facing the batter and they've got no idea what's happened, but for those that did see it, it was pretty entertaining by all accounts. Yeah.
Not videoed, obviously.
Thankfully not back then. No, probably got away with it, I think. Yeah.
So what, and because when did you turn to spin? Was it was only the last quarter of your career?
Yeah, I'd say so. At least 5, if not more years now. God, time flies, but...
Was there a gap? Was there a gap in the team, or you just thought this was... Because obviously spin in T20 cricket's become a massive thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it has. I think I did it... God, it must be more than that, because I don't think I bowled pace at the Big Bash, and that's been 8 years. So, from memory, but I think it was actually from Canterbury. We had a period where we had Aaron Birmingham bowling leg spin, and obviously Francis Mackay bowling offies, and it was either them or it was to do with club cricket, where we sort of had a limited number of spinners. I'm actually thinking it might have been club cricket where we didn't really have any, and I thought, bugger it, I'm not getting any younger, going to give this a crack. And yeah, probably with my unique action, it's never going to be the best spin in the world, but somehow I managed to make it work and managed to still play little roles here and there for teams over the years. So I enjoyed the challenge of, I guess, trying something new and trying to get better at it as well. And probably at a stage I'd been playing for a long time then, so it was nice in that sense just to change it up a little bit. But yeah,
nice. And who helped you with your spin and evolving that part of it?
To be honest, probably Paul Wiseman helped me the most. He's a pretty classy player himself, and then an incredible coach. So I feel very lucky that I was able to get alongside him and get some tips and tricks from him. And Ben Rapson was probably another one as well that they seem to help me with that over the years. And like I say, trying to make my action work for it and see what we could get out of it.
And how long do you reckon it took you to to bowl that off spin and actually have it, confidently you could bowl it at first class level?
First class, that took a wee bit, but not too bad. And then international was probably a different kettle of fish, especially because the game kind of evolved really quickly through that time that I was probably trying to bowl it. And I probably became quite a defensive bowler when I did it and tried to just minimise runs. And whereas as I got a little bit better, I tried to get a bit more on the ball and get a few more revs and try and turn it a little bit, or just be subtle with some of my change-ups and have a bit more about me, to try and be a little bit more attacking and and probably ideally increase my pace as well. I think at the domestic game you can get away with being a bit slower, but if you're going to bowl spin at the international level, you generally need to have a bit of pace about you, and that was a challenge in itself with my action, just the timing of things. So that probably took a bit more work, but it was fun trying to work it out and see if I could make it work. And just probably played more of a role with it for Canterbury than I did for New Zealand, but any opportunity I got was also always a good one.
Nice. That's one thing I always say to our clients, like that some of them, like even high school guys, they pigeonhole themselves as like, I'm a opening bowler at 15. It's like some people don't even pick up that skill until they're, I think Ish didn't pick up spin until he was 16, so
I've seen
and we developed
people do that. Like Morna Nielsen was
right?
I'm pretty sure she was left arm seamer and changed to left arm spin at some point and became one of the best in the world. And like there's a keeper in England that I'm pretty sure didn't start till she was about 15, so and then she became one of the world's best. So certainly whatever you are in your teenage years doesn't mean that that's it done and dusted, that's for sure. And sometimes it's fun to play around and you never know what secret talent you might find.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. And then so another challenge. So obviously your wife Leah, playing together. And did you captain Leah as well at all?
Yes, I would have captained her at Canterbury, and a little bit at New Zealand as well. Yes.
So how did you manage that? Do you have a wife hat and then a captain, a teammate hat, or how does that?
Yeah, we tried to be as professional as we could about it. And we always used to say the car ride home was time for cricket, and when we get home we try and switch off from it. And look, it doesn't always happen because it got to the point that it was our job, and it was probably easier earlier on when you actually had another job that you could talk about. But once it became more cricket, it was probably harder to do that. But when you're at cricket, and I think we were fortunate in a way that she was a fast bowler, I was a batter. It meant I did have to face her far too much than I would have liked in the nets, but get a few bounces. But she certainly didn't hold back when she was bowling, put it that way. And it probably meant that we used to say you'd go to training and we'd just about not talk to each other or not see each other, and not because we were pissed off with each other or anything. We weren't really, we were doing different things, and you sort of one way or another busy, and just the way it worked out. So and then you would see each other at home, so it sort of worked out quite nicely, and we weren't really competing for spots, which probably was a good thing as well, with different disciplines. And I don't know, we just seemed to somehow make it work for the most part. So
nice. And then obviously Grace came into the world. How old's Grace now?
3. Yes. Yep.
3. You thought so? I was guessing 3. And so obviously you had to take some time out, and then you seemed to. I mean, I don't know, but it did seem quite seamless the way you came back in. So how did you manage that time, and how becoming a mum and playing and all that? How did you manage all that?
Yeah, I had Grace in 2020, I think it was. So it did mean that I missed the T20 World Cup in Australia. I think she was 6 weeks old when that was on, and it was always I guess for us it was just the time was right for us as a family, but you knew that you were going to miss something, because I think at that point nearly every year there was a World Cup, there was something going on that you were going to miss. So it was one of those situations where it's never quite the best time, but it was the right time for us as a family, and had fantastic support from New Zealand cricket, which was amazing to be able to then stay on contract through that period, and meant that I got a lot of support. During pregnancy, was able to see some sports doctors and things like that, and then once I'd had Grace as well, just to help that transition back into playing, because I knew that I wanted to try and do that. You're never quite sure, because obviously I've never had a child before. I didn't know how it was going to go, what it was going to be like. So I wanted to come back and play, but yeah, it was always slightly the unknown. We, in a way, it slightly worked in my favour that COVID and lockdown happened. I think Grace was 2 months old. So
yeah, true. That's
it
perfect
was
timing.
perfect timing for me, but probably still wouldn't want to go through it again. But yeah, just
No.
it meant that I didn't have to rush my body, I guess, probably was the biggest thing, and we couldn't get to gym, so I just was able to do body weight stuff at home and everything, and try and condition that way. I remember going out and doing little runs and doing literally like 30 seconds and stopping, and then doing 10 of those, and it was the strangest thing because I've never really had a serious injury, so it was a different feeling coming back from that and having to work my way back into it, and not feel fit and all that sort of stuff, and try and get back into it, which was a bit of a challenge at times. And I then went away on tour. I think it was September of that year, so I think Grace was about 9 months. So we took her with us again. COVID probably helped a little bit, not because we ended up in a bubble. So we had a nanny in with us in the bubble, plus the 15 odd other aunties and everything that helped look after her and that. And the team was amazing having her around. And looking back, I'm not quite sure how I got through the whole tour. And initially we weren't sure if I was going to, but it's certainly a different challenge, and feeling like your body's not what it was beforehand, and having to sort of find trust in it again. It was certainly a different challenge to go through, but thankful that I got there in the end.
Did you have any other athletes who had gone through that sort of thing to lean on, or do you have just advice from trainers or like that?
Yeah, well, fortunately my trainer's wife had children, so he had a little bit of experience from that, and I'm actually a part of a sort of mums and bubs group now with other athletes around New Zealand, which is pretty cool, and that didn't exist when I first had Grace, but to think that those sorts of things are starting to come together and provide that support for athletes in the future that have children, it's pretty cool to think that they've got that support. I probably wish that I went to a women's health physio. I think you can't underestimate that, just the support that they can give you. For any females out there wanting to have kids, that'd be my one thing that I probably wish I did do. But other than that, had good support around me and it was probably because I was the first cricketer to do it. It was slightly new for us as well, so we were navigating through it a little bit. I say slightly blind, but there was an element of working it out as we went along.
Is it? And it's only sort of you and Kate Ibrahim that she's come back from kids as well?
Yep. Yeah, she ended up having Sophia about a month after I had Grace, so it was pretty cool to be alongside someone within cricket that was doing it at the same time, and she was playing. We were playing at Canterbury together, so we were able to sort of get ideas off each other, or talk about how hard it is, or what our struggles were. So it was nice to have that support.
Nice. And then obviously, actually I can't remember if this is the right timeline, but obviously a bit of a shock when the White Ferns, you and Leah dropped from the White Ferns. What year was that?
Yeah, it was last year. Well, we got dropped from the White Ferns
Was it only last?
we got dropped from the White Ferns, 2014, I think it was. When they went to the World Cup in Bangladesh. So if that's the one you're meaning.
No, I was thinking the more recent one. I didn't know.
We got dropped in it. Well, more not on the contract list, not contracted last year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, that was only last year.
Did you have much? Was it a complete shock? Was there much of a inkling that might happen, or how did that happen?
No, so we had the World Cup at home in what must have been March, and so obviously after that it's the end of our season, and we get a rest period for sort of 6 weeks, and then you normally sort of get back into it, and We had the Commonwealth Games coming up in August-ish, I think it was. So for me, I was aiming towards that and hoping to be a part of that. That was my kind of next goal. And so yeah, you kind of carry on hoping to be a part of that and training and, you know, the norm. And then got a phone call and ended up having a meeting with David White and Brian Stronach. And yeah, it came pretty out of the blue. They effectively, I guess, from the results of the World Cup and probably the previous World Cups, they decided that they wanted to go in a little bit of a new direction, get some youth in there and blood them for sort of the next cycle or so. And as a result, it meant that players like myself weren't part of their kind of future plans. So yeah, it was a big shock to the system at the time, having to sort of go through that. And yeah, you never want to have to go through something like that, but it's also, you know, it's part of professional sport and the decisions that they make and what they think is best for, you know, trying to improve the results and things moving forward. So yeah, to sort of take it on the chin and try and move on.
How did you have anything that helped get through that, like in terms of if anyone else is, especially we have a lot of young clients who, you know, obviously not quite the same level, but if they miss out on their first 11, it's, you know, it's devastating for them. So is there anything that worked for you that you'd give advice to on someone if they miss out on selection?
Yeah, I think that probably applies more to 2014 when I got dropped then. I think for me, I was always worrying so much about what the selectors were thinking, and, you know, if you saw them at the games and stuff and sitting there, and yeah, probably let that impact my performances in my game too much. And when I got dropped, it was pretty hard. I wasn't performing terribly, but I certainly wasn't performing probably where I could either, and probably where I did after that. And I think the biggest piece of advice I'd have is just focus on your controllables. Like if you give all this energy and everything to what they're thinking, all of that sort of stuff, yeah, it's draining that energy that then actually you can use to help try get better and be better. And the really hard part is, you know, often they'll give you feedback and they'll have reasons as to why they didn't pick you, and sometimes you might agree with it, sometimes you might not. And the reality is that no matter what you think, it's what they think. So you kind of got to be like, okay, well, if that's what they think, that's what they think, and I've got to find a way to either prove them wrong or perform better. That means that I get picked. And yeah, the best people that I've probably seen come back from moments like that sort of get their bit between the teeth and say, well, righty, I'm going to work harder and I'm going to be a better player, and take it as their own responsibility and in their own control, rather than, you know, yes, there's always things that you don't like and that you're not, you know, happy about and all that sort of stuff. But if you start blaming all of those things or blaming other people or whatever, it's not going to help you in the long run. So if you really want it, then as hard as it is and as crappy as it is to go through that, you've got to take that personal responsibility and work harder and smarter or whatever it is, and just to get better.
Cool, perfect. So obviously this year being your last year, you had some pretty cool moments, especially I imagine the honour of Hagley Oval being named Satterthwaite Oval for the was it semi-final of the HBJ?
No, it was just our second to last round of HBJ. So we had 2 games against Central Districts there, and it was our last home games for the season. And they knew that the final was in Queenstown at a neutral venue, so we knew that it was our last games. But it was incredibly special, and just the length that they went to as well. You know, turned up and there was stickers everywhere of Satterthwaite Oval and signs and things, and I made sure I got one to bring home because it was pretty cool. But certainly very taken aback when they told me what they were going to do, and like I say, the length that they went to, it was pretty special, and the girls certainly let me know about it and made a real weekend of it. So yeah, I'm just very thankful.
Nice, yeah, cool. Is there any over your career? Is there any particular absolute highlights you can remember? Maybe can you tell us a bit about, like, especially the 4 tons in a row, and what were you doing so well at the time that you felt like made you play that well like that?
Yeah, everyone always asks me that, and I wish I had a better answer, because I think if you knew the answer, you'd be performing every week. It was just an unbelievable time, just scored so many runs, not just the 400s, but just felt like I couldn't do much wrong. But I think I just had such clarity in my game. Was really specific at training, really clear in how I wanted to play the game, and really it gave me so much confidence to then go out and execute it. And once you get a performance under your belt, that kind of reinforces that. It then just you seem to get on this train of being able to kind of churn them out. And everyone always talks about the state of flow and all those sorts of things when you're an athlete, and that was certainly a season where I found that's for sure. And I think with cricket in particular, if you can really clear your mind when you're in the middle, it's a massive key, and I think I probably nailed that to a certain extent in that season, that's for sure. So it was an enjoyable one. I think it was a different season, might have been the one before. I had a season for Canterbury and club cricket. I think it was just after I'd been dropped, and then the following season came back and sort of had a similar state where just felt like I was scoring runs for fun and just really enjoyed it. So that was a pretty memorable season from a personal point of view. But I feel like I've had so many highlights, like games that we've won, in particular the one at the Basin for Canterbury. It was a T20 game, and we were well behind. And in the women's game, you very rarely see teams, in the men's game, they've got the power in that to kind of have someone go out and whack a few and win a game from nowhere. And you sort of saw it happen. But in the women's game, and back then in particular, and I think you're starting to see it more and more with the likes of the Grace Harrises and that are coming through. But we just hadn't really seen it. So we felt a little bit like we're probably a bit dead and buried. And then Leah came out and played innings of her life. That I think she's probably got that reputation for forevermore now, and supported by Kate Ibrahim, and managed to get us over the line, and that was an incredible game to have been a part of. And I think then obviously there's all the things like travelling the world, going to countries like West Indies and India, Sri Lanka, and that I just never thought I'd get to. It's been pretty special. Playing at Lords was pretty special. I think lastly is probably just being involved, like I said earlier, the evolution of the game. When I first started playing for Canterbury, we were playing our cricket out at little old Redwood Park. No one really knew we were playing. You'd get a little write-up in the paper, but now we're on TV. It was, there's media a lot more, and the public know we're playing. Kids know who you are because they've seen it. Like, that's pretty cool to have been involved in that transition. And then probably this season's just made me realise, feel really proud for the impact that I've had on a lot of people. I think when you retire, like when I retired from international cricket last year, and then when I retired from domestic cricket and that this year, the number of comments that I got and people saying how much I helped them and how I made them feel when they came into the team, and comments like that just means the world to think you've had that impact on people, rather than all the stats and that sort of stuff. They're nice to have at times, but that sort of impact was pretty cool to hear those sort of stories.
Nice. I've actually got a couple of those lined up, but while we're talking about the mental side of things, so was there any particular things you did to work on your mental game? Did you journal? Do you meditate? Is there anything particular, or do you have any help from a sports psych or a mental skills coach? Or
I probably should have meditated and journaled more than I did. I did have periods where I did do that, and one, those seasons that I talked about earlier, where I had a lot of success, I certainly was journaling then, and you try to then, you ask what was going well for you then, and you try and go back and read it and try and remember what was going well. But John Quinn was one that I worked with a bit over the years, and he was incredibly helpful. And after I got dropped for the White Ferns, he was someone that I reached out to, and we did a little bit of work, and probably just trying to clear the mind and get rid of the distractions and that sort of thing, and really hone in on what was important to be focusing on and what was in my control. And that was something that became quite important. I'm a bit of a overthinker or overanalyzer of things, so tried to strip it back a little bit and simplify it, and I wouldn't say stop some of that, but it was more because I don't think you can't stop your thoughts necessarily, but it was learning ways to kind of manage them and almost accept them and just let them come in. And the more you fought them and that sort of thing, that seemed to snowball in the worse it got. So, yeah, if I could have tools and ways to manage them and just accept them, and then turn my focus to what I wanted it to be on, that was probably something that helped my game quite a lot.
Nice. Yeah, that's certainly something that I've noticed, particularly like even when I coached your team in that Canterbury days. I remember coming in thinking, did we win like 3 years in a row with
like
Mark?
That.
And then I come in, and then I'm like, oh my god! And then there's white ferns in our team, and then there's girls who have played for 2 or 3 years cricket, and it was like, how do I keep you guys challenged and them not intimidated? And I just overthought everything, and it was insane. And the more I've done this sort of like, actually Quinny's one of my mentors for mental skills coaching,
Awesome.
so because that's one thing we're doing a lot more of. He's amazing, and yeah, it's crazy how we overthink.
I think in cricket in particular, it seems to be bad for that.
Golf.
Yeah,
golf
you got too much time to think, too much time to fill your brain. Like in rugby or something, it's always moving and always going, and you probably just kind of have to read the game and keep moving. Whereas, you've got way too much time in cricket to think.
Yeah.
We need to turn our brains off.
Yeah. Cool. So while you were talking about players, so I've got a couple of anecdotes from some people. All came with some very similar stuff, but I'll just share a couple because I had quite a few. So Frankie Mackay kept it pretty simple. She said, "Dream teammate, all round great human, always backed us 100%, always checked on us, and also able to have difficult conversations when she needed to." Jacinta Savage, Squirt, she said, "Branch has had a huge influence on me. Amy is always someone that I looked up to before we made the Mags team, so when I got into the team I was stoked to learn and play alongside her. She always helped me out with my game, checked in on how I was doing. Her leadership was extremely knowledgeable, and she seemed to know what to do in every given situation. No matter how far behind in the game, we always felt like we had a chance to win with Branch in our team. Greatest player I've ever played with."
Pretty nice compliment.
And then Bernie, she said, "Great leader on and off the field, gives her time to everyone, calm at the crease, genuinely kind person that cares about everyone and gets the best out of people, extremely selfless." And in the 2018 World Cup, you went into her room, went over all the plans, make sure she was okay. She always felt like you had her back, and one of the best she's ever played with. She's extremely impressed that you came back after having grace and did so well. And then she said, even after not being involved in the most recent World Cup, you still reached out and checked in if she needed anything and if you could help her, which she was really really grateful for. And then coaches, I know Richard Pithy is one of your someone you work with quite a bit. So he said some pretty similar things. Amy is an extremely hard worker, trains smart, very coachable, knows her game, which comes from experience at national level, but also playing around the world. Always open to adding new skills to her game, has plans for bowlers and match situations and batting positions, etc. I think her experience in overseas T20 leagues and recently coaching the Adelaide Strikers has helped her tactically, and I believe she has a big future in the game, coaching-wise, if she wants to. So, something that's very clear, some very, traits that you seem to think, very considerate, selfless, a great listener, smart, well-planned, and you back your players, which I think are all massive traits for great coaches. So, is coaching something you think you'll continue to follow?
Yeah, I hope so. I really enjoyed the little bits that I've done so far. Obviously, the Adelaide Strikers was an amazing opportunity, and didn't really expect that, but just awesome chance to go and be involved in a different capacity. And the team was great, the staff were amazing, so feel very thankful that and obviously we won, so I get a lot of stick for being 1 from 1, and I feel like I should just retire from coaching right now. But yeah, I've just
It's easy.
I think, as you heard in a lot of those really nice comments, that I just love helping people and helping to get the best out of them, helping to help them grow their game. And look, I think we said before, we overthink things and all that, and we're also hard enough on ourselves as well, in this silly sport at times, that, if sometimes you just actually need to remind them how good they are or build up their confidence. And that's something that I try to do where I can. And obviously we want to look to improve and grow our game and that sort of thing. But it's trying to remember what our strengths are and that sort of thing. I enjoy that side of it as well. And so, in answer to your question, hopefully, yes. It's going to be an interesting period, just navigating the next wee while, obviously with family and that sort of thing. But I'd love to stay involved if I can.
Cool, nice. So before we wrap things up, I've got a couple of questions from a couple of listeners. So Phoebe Dundas from Oamaru, she's actually a really keen cricketer who's played. She's come to Christchurch for a couple of one-on-ones with me, and she's actually going to the UK shortly to play. I think she's playing actually in a men's league,
awesome.
so she's looking forward to that. So she wanted to ask 3 questions. Who inspired you to play first?
I think Dad. There's a picture of me holding a little bat in the kitchen when not long after I probably could walk. So I think that was definitely from Dad. I don't think I would have watched cricket on TV back in those days at that age.
Yeah, true. Nice. If there was a rule in cricket you could change, what would it be?
Not get out in the first ball. The batter in me is talking, isn't it? Oh, I don't know. Oh, that's a tricky question. I'd probably have to go with that, not get out in the first ball, because I just love batting. And actually, getting out at the non-strikers end off a tip-off from a run-out, that's cruel. That's just cruel. So I hate that one.
Yeah. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, surely. I've definitely seen it happen a lot over my career. I think we had it twice in one game, which was unreal. But that has to be one of the worst ways of getting out. So I'd change that.
This isn't from Phoebe, but are you pro man-cat or anti-man-cat?
Don't ask. I'm not. I guess that's anti, isn't it? I've had Frankie McClure on my team, and I was captain at the time, and we know she's pro. Look, I think it's evolved. I think it's evolved a lot. I think it was in this grey, murky area where it was spirit of cricket and everything everyone always talks about. But I think now it's just become a little bit like indoor cricket. It's just going to be part of the game, and batters just need to learn not to leave their crease. So, I'm thankful I've probably finished before it started to become the norm.
I haven't seen it come into club cricket yet, but I think that's when it's going to get.
Someone's going to at some point, aren't they?
But I've heard Frankie's rationale, and I know when you get to the deaf and people are just taking the piss with their backing out, then it's, I get it. But I wish there was just some. I don't know if they have brought it in, because I think when Zampa did it, there was that rule where he'd got to a certain point of his release, and then you'd assume the ball would have left, so they haven't really left the crease early. I think somewhere like that would solve it. I don't know if that's actually a rule now.
I think there was something around the action, but that's the hard part, is the timing of it. It's a bit tricky.
Yeah. Because I just don't like it when it's deception. When it's deception, you're just literally just holding and waiting for them to leave the crease. Whereas if they're taking the piss, that's different.
I'll never forget playing. I think it was 2000 World Cup, so it was a while ago now. But England just came out, and the sort of second half of the game, back end of the game, just started taking the piss with their running. And look, I don't know exactly if they were leaving really early, but it certainly felt like it. But those are the situations where you think they're actually trying to get ahead through leaving early, so you can understand that. But I wouldn't have done it. But that's just because it was always that grey spirit of cricket area, whereas it's changed now, so it's different.
And then she had one more question. If you could play professional sport in any other sport, what would it be?
Oh, you've got good questions tonight, don't you? Maybe golf.
I thought you'd say golf.
Or actually, something I wish I was really good at is rugby sevens. That would have been cool to, that would have been cool to be professional and play. That would be it.
Yeah, the women's rugby's taken off mad this
Yeah,
last
it's
couple of
insane.
years.
It's pretty cool to watch. Don't know if I would have been fast enough for sevens.
We're
but
hoping to get. You can just be a lock. We'll just throw you up in the line out. What was the other thing I was going to say? Okay, so this is Alice's wee segment. He likes to do a wee five questions at the
Oh
end.
dear.
He did that. We had Robbie through on the first week and Toddy Astle the second week, and both of them struggled because they
Oh,
won
no.
from 5.
I'm not going to be any good at this.
I think he's slightly made it slightly easier.
With general knowledge, I'm useless. So.
Just
dear.
general knowledge, so just completely general knowledge.
Don't take me to a pub quiz. I won't do well.
Right. I'm no good at those either. I'm a teacher. What is the process called where a plant makes food?
Oh my goodness, photosynthesis? I don't know. Yes.
Nice, well done. You're already off the mark. Shortbread was invented in what country? Or originated in what country?
I'm going to say England, but England or Scotland, I don't know.
Close.
Oh.
Scotland's close. The official sporting NBA basketball was divided into how many segments?
Say that one again. The official
official NBA basketball, how many segments is it divided into?
I should know this because Leo watches it, but I thought it was 2, and then the 2 conferences play each other, but I don't know. I've got no idea.
What's your answer?
Why did there for 2?
What's your answer?
2. I don't know.
Sorry?
I'm probably miles off the mark. 8.
It's 8.
There you
8.
go.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen this movie, you might know this one. Facebook was first limited to students of what university? I don't know if you saw the social. I think it was called the social.
I don't remember this bit, so that's I'd be taking an absolute guess. I'll just say Oxford. I've got no idea.
Oh, no,
that should have been easy. No.
You've got one more to get. You'll be top of the leaderboard if you get this one. Oh, you'll definitely get this one. In golf terminology, what is referred to as an eagle? What do you have to do to get
2 under par?
Yes. Well done. Top of the league.
Not too bad then. He's gone easier.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Cool. Thank you so much, Amy, for taking time to have a chat and share your experiences and your knowledge and your insights into your career. We really appreciate it. Our listeners will get a lot out of it. We've got a lot of, hopefully we've got a few female cricketers, and we're definitely trying to get a few more female cricketers on our books because seem to always get just lads. So, but just generally, all the stuff you've shared applies to so many things in any sport and in life. So, thank you so much, and all the best for the rest of what's next. Hopefully
thanks for having me. It's been fun chatting.
Thanks for listening to the Evolve Your Game podcast. Hope you've taken some insight and enjoyed what we had to offer today. Make sure you like and subscribe and share on your socials. Tag us. We always like to see who's listening. And we'll catch you back next week on the Evolve Your Game podcast.